What's going on YouTube? Network Wizkid here, and today I've decided that we're going to start going through my CCNP security lab guide that I created. So for those that follow me on Twitter and other social media platforms, you will be aware that I created a lab guide for the CCNP security 300-206 implementing Cisco Edge Network security solutions. And this has been up now for just short of a year. Now, with the changes coming into effect real soon, and when I say changes, I refer to the Cisco certification program and how that's changing, I've decided that I would like to run through and share with you guys the labs that I created in this lab guide. These labs are still going to be relevant once the change comes into effect, so it's still worth making the purchase if you are studying for any CCNP security or any security related topics, or also if you want to understand primarily Cisco security a little bit more. This lab guide has about 10 extensive labs in here, and you'll see as we go through them. So the lab guide is available still. I will post the link in the description below. I think it's for about $5 only now, so it's an investment. Or you can head over to my YouTube page or Twitter or my website networkwizkid.com to find that lab guide. So what we're going to do is we're going to start with lab 1 in this guide, and as you can see, there's quite a lot of content in here. We're just going to skip all that and go straight to the first lab, which is this. So configuring and securing NTP. So this is a topology that I'm showing on screen. I'm going to be using EVMG to build this topology and configure it. And the overview of this lab is to basically configure lab router 1 to act as the master NTP server. The switch and the ASA will also be configured to associate themselves with the NTP server for their time source. Once all devices have been configured with unauthenticated NTP, we will then look at securing Ntp. Once we've done that, we will then move on to performing verification checks to make sure that that works. So again, that's the lab that we're going to be following. We have some structured steps here, objectives we need to follow. So we're going to start with at the very beginning. So part 1, you can choose to follow this lab using physical equipment, or if you're using virtual equipment, make sure you cable your devices up as per the topology to get the best out of this lab. So once you've done that, we'll then move on to step 2, which is configuring basic device settings. And our first step is to configure the host names as shown in the topology for lab S1, lab router 1 and lab ASA V. So they're the host names we're going to use. So we'll just go back over to our topology now. Okay, so that should be better for viewing, so hopefully you should be able to see that. So our first task was to configure all the device host names. So I'm going to start with the switch, because we're using, in this lab, we're using the VPC. So this one is, we're going to keep the same host name here. So we'll move on to the switch, and we'll simply give that the host name of lab S1, and then we'll go on to the router, which has just been booted up. So just quickly do that there with the ASA. We'll do the ASA while we're waiting for that. skip all that as well and give that a host name of lab ASA v. That's the host name for that. And now for the router, lab R1. Okay, so all our devices now have the host names configured, so that's good. So if we just flick back now to our lab guide, and our next step then is to configure the banner message of the day for lab S1, lab router 1 and lab ASAV. And I've also put in this, you can use the lab everyday banner that is below, or you can choose your own. And it's just worth pointing out that the lab everyday banner, it won't work on the ASA. So what we're going to do, just to save a bit of time, we will configure a normal banner rather than using that. So let's give lab router 1 a banner. So banner MOTD, and we'll just put this system is restricted. And before I press enter, we'll just copy that, and then we'll do the same there for the ASA, and then we'll also do the same for the switch. So once that's done, let's go back across to our lab guide. So step 3, we now need to configure the IP addresses for lab S1, lab router 1 and lab PC as shown in the topology. So let's go ahead and do that now. So our IP addresses are, we'll start with router 1, and my interface is slightly different to the topology this time round, but as long as you make note of that. So this one is going to be, let's just flip back to this. And gig 00, it helps if you're using the same interfaces. So gig 00 is the inside. Let's scroll back up there. Come a bit too far down. So gig 00 is the inside. So let's configure gig 00. My gig 00 is gig 1. IP address is going to be 192.168.10.1. I'll just issue a no shutdown on that. And then we'll configure, in my case, interface gig 2, IP address of 192.168.1.2, and this is a /30.252, and again we'll issue the no shutdown on that. And then we'll move on to configuring the switch now. So they're coming up now. Let's have a look at the switch. So the switch interfaces may be up, may not be. So show IP interface brief. It just depends what image you're using. So as you can see, my interfaces there are up already, so that's fine. So we don't need to issue the no shutdown, but depending on what image you're using, you may need to issue the no shutdown on those interfaces, so just check. Okay, so the next step is we're going to configure a switch IP address and enable IP routing if not already configured. So I actually need to check this image to make sure that that is supported, so I'm going to do that now because I think I'm using a layer 2 image, but let's take a look. IP routing, okay, interface VLAN 1, and that's come up, and we're using VLAN 1 just for lab purposes. You don't normally use VLAN 1. 192.168.10.2/24. Okay, so we can see now that VLAN 1 at the bottom here is now configured and up, so that's fine. Show VLAN brief. You can also see there that that's there. Show IP interface VLAN 1. We can also see that it's got the IP address and mask there, and it's showing us up, so that's good. Okay, so our next step then is to disable DNS lookups on the routers and the switches, and this is just purely to if you enter any configuration wrong, it may try to do a DNS lookup, so it just saves you wasting time really. So let's just follow the lab guide and do that now. So back into global, no IP domain lookup, route 1. IP domain lookup and ASA. I think this is slightly different. No domain lookup, if I remember correctly. We're just doing that on the routers and the switches, so we don't need to do that on the ASA, so we'll leave that, that's fine. Okay, so now we need to configure the basic device settings on the ASA. This will include the interface IP address, interface security levels, and interface name. The interface security level should be configured to use level 100, and the interface name should be named inside. Okay, so let's do that now. Switch back over here. So interface gig 00 in our case, and it is as per the lab guide anyway. IP address is 192.168.1.1, and it's a /30, and we'll give it a security level of 100. And if we actually name that anyway before as inside, before issuing a security level, it should give it 100 anyway, so I won't do that. What we'll do is we'll do name if We'll call that inside, and we should see there by default it gives it a security level of 100. So now we'll issue a no shut. And we'll go back to the lab guide. So we configured the interface with the IP address mentioned. We have given it a security level of 100. We called it inside, and we issued a no shutdown, so we're good there. Our next step is to configure lab switch 1 and lab router 1 with a username admin with a privilege level of 15 and encrypted password of Cisco. The username and password should be used to access these devices. Okay. So depending on how you are accessing devices, whether it be physical or virtual, this may come in handy, it may not. So, but we'll follow the lab guide and we'll configure that. Okay, so we'll start with lab switch 1, and we'll give it a username admin, and we'll give it privilege 15. Secret is Cisco, just for lab purposes. Enable secret 0 Cisco. We'll do the same there for router 1. Username admin, privilege 15, password or secret, sorry, Cisco. And for enable, we're gonna give password of Cisco as well. Okay, cool. So we've done that now for lab switch 1 and lab router 1. Our next step is step 8, so we're actually going to re-enable IP domain lookup, and this is so that we can generate the SSH keys for lab S1 and lab router 1. Let me switch back to that. So we'll start with lab router 1. Give it an IP domain name of it's there, so it's slightly different on the CSR. IP domain name wizkid.co.uk. Should be different on the switch. Yep, there we go, wizkid.co.uk. So it all depends on the versions you're using. And then we'll do crypto key generate RSA modulus, and we're going to give it a key size of 2048, and that's done for the switch. We'll just use the same command there for the router, and that one's done as well. Okay, so once we've done that, we now need to configure the lab ASAV with the username and password as well. So we're going to use the same username and password as well. We don't need to specify secret on the ASA because it will mask the password automatically anyway. Okay. and we're going to use local authentication for the console. So going on to the ASA, what we're going to do is username, admin, and we're going to give it a password of Cisco and privilege level of 15. And then we'll do AAA authentication, enable console, and we want to specify local authentication in capitals. So moving on to step 11, we will now configure the console and VTY, access a lab switch 1 and lab route 1, and set the timeout values to 5 minutes. So we'll do that now. Let's switch back there. Starting with route 1, line con 0. Password is going to be Cisco con. Exec timeout going to be 5 minutes. Login, and we're going to enable login synchronous. Line VTY 0 to 4. We'll do password is going to be Cisco VTY. Exec timeout is 5 minutes again. Login local, and also login synchronous. Just make sure I'm not missing out there. And for the VTY lines, we're going to do transport input, and we're only going to allow SSH to the virtual terminal. So we'll do the same there for the switch, line con 0, and password Cisco con. Exec timeout is 5 minutes. Login synchronous, and enable login. Line VTY 0 4. Password Cisco VTY. Exec timeout 5 minutes again. Login local. So we'll use our local usernames to log in. And enable login synchronous. And we're only going to allow access via SSH. Transport input SSH. Okay, so that's it there for the router and a switch. Our next task is to configure a static route on the lab ASAV so that devices can reach 192.168.10.0/24. So this is the inside of the network, so we'll do that now on the ASA. So we'll do root inside interface 192.168, anything destined to 192.168/0/24 is going to go via 192.168.1.2, which is a next stop interface, so that's on the router. So we'll do that there. switch back here. Now our next step there is to verify basic device configs. So you can issue a show run if you want. I'm not going to do that in this video, so you can issue a show run. We've got a few questions that I input here for those that are following the lab guide. I'm not going to go through all these, so I'll skip those bits. I'll skip all those, and we'll get down to the pinging just to verify end-to-end connectivity. So our first one is from lab PC1, ping the default gateway lab R1. Which reminds me, I don't know if we configured that yet. I don't think we did, so we can configure that now. If we haven't, let's have a look. Nope, I don't think we have. Let me just disconnect that and then reconnect that. I think it's, yeah, I think that device is timed out there. These virtual PCs are sometimes a little bit of a pain, so what I'll do, I'll just stop that and I'll start it again, see if I can bring that back there. There we go, it's come back. So let's give it an IP address for starters. So we are using, that's a good point, what IP address are we using there? So I think for the purpose of this, let's just give it 192.168 10.10, and our gateway is 192.168 10.1. Okay, so let's see if we can ping that gateway now. 10.1. And yes, first one times out till we get the ARP entry, and now it should be good. So yeah, we can now ping the gateway. So that's pinging from the virtual PC to the lab route 1. So that's good. And then our next ping test was to ping from lab router 1 to lab ASA V. So let's have a look at that. And as you can see there, that timeout has occurred. So we do Cisco con and Cisco. And what we're going to do is we're going to ping 192.168 1.1. We can see there that that's also successful. So we've pretty much got the end-to-end connectivity there from the PC to the router, and then from the router to the ASA. So if we flick back to our instructions, we now move on to the actual configuration of NTP. So part 2, we're going to change the date and time for lab router 1, and also there's a question here, or there's a space where you can make a note on the lab guide. Again, we won't do that. We'll just take a look at it once we issue the command, and then we'll set the clock time as well. Okay, so let's flick back here. So for router 1, we'll do a show clock, and we can see the date and time there is specified. Now we're going to do a clock set, and if you notice here, you don't need to be in global configuration to do this. So we're going to change the clock, and let's change it to, well, we'll follow the lab guide. So we're going to change, the lab guide tells us to change the time on lab router 1 to reflect 5 minutes ahead of the current time. So 5 minutes ahead of this time is going to be roughly, let's just issue the command again. So we've got 28 there, so let's do a clock set, and we're going to change it to 14, 28, well, say it's 29 now, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, and 0, 0, and we're going to keep the same date, so 9th of February 2020. So now if we do a show clock, we can see that the clock there has been set for us, and we also got a syslog message to tell us that it's been updated. Okay, cool. So going back to our lab guide, we did receive the syslog output. We saw that, and now we're going to configure daylight savings for the time zone for lab router 1. So going back there now, let's do clock summer. It might be slightly different on this. It might be slightly different on this CSR. There we go. Clock select. So we have to go into global configuration mode to do this. So it's slightly different. Sometimes confusing when you're setting a clock when you don't have to be in global conf T, and then actually setting the summertime you do. So we'll set the summertime settings now. UTC recurring last, and we're gonna do last date is Sunday March 2 AM, and last Sunday is October 2. And the clocks go back again. That should be the clock settings updated. Okay, that's fine. Let's transition back now and have a look what we need to do next. So we did get another syslog message, and we also just verified that the date and time did stay the same. All you were doing there is updating the summertime settings, so when the clocks go back and when the clocks go forward. So what we're going to do is configure Securing Ntp for lab router 1, and this is going to be the Ntp server. So we'll jump back on this server now, and we'll do Ntp master, and the stratum number is going to be 1, so this master Ntp server, and we're going to configure secure Ntp, Ntp authenticate, Ntp trusted key. So we can set any key number up to 65535, so we'll just use key number 1, and then we'll do Ntp authentication key, and we're going to use key 1, and then we're going to use, let's see what, yeah, so we've got the use of MD5 hashing, and we're going to give the authentication key Cisco Ntp for the purpose of this lab. So let's have a look at Ntp Status. So the reference clock is using the local clock. You can see currently that it's unsynchronized, and it's using the Stratum 1 which we configured. If we do show Ntp information, let's have a look at the status. Still unsynchronized, last update 15 seconds ago. Okay, that's fine. And now, so going back to the lab guide, now that we've configured router 1 to be the master Ntp server with a stratum key, with a stratum number of 1, and we've also given an authentication key MD5 and set it to the key to Cisco Ntp. Before other devices can use this master Ntp server, they will also need to have the same settings in order for that to work. So we'll move on to part 3 now, which is configuring Ntp Associations for Lab ASAV and Lab S1, so switch 1. So we'll verify the current time and date on both of those devices first. So let's have a look here. So on this device, so the switch, let's log in again. And we'll do show clock. So 14:35. Let's look at the Ntp server again, so we can see we're about 5 minutes out. So the Ntp server is 5 minutes in front, and the switch is currently behind. We'll have a look at the ASA as well. And we can see it's pretty much the same as the switch there, which is where we want it to be. And the reason we're doing this is so that we can just see once we've synchronized to the router, we should be able to see the clocks change. Okay. So once we've done that, we need to also configure the daylight savings and the time zone for ASA and switch 1 as well. So let's go back to that now. And on the ASA we'll start with that. So we'll do clock, summertime, and we're going to use UTC, recurring. Last day is Sunday, March 2 AM, and then last day is Sunday, October 2 AM. That's set for that, and we'll also do, I might be able to copy that so it's quicker on the switch. Global config last Sunday, yeah, October 2 AM. There we go. Cool. So we've got our syslog message that's being generated there as well. So going back to our lab guide. In fact, there's an additional command there that might be worth putting in actually on the ASA. Let's quickly do that. Clock. global config, clock, time zone, yeah, clock time zone, UTC, and it's 0, the offset. Come back to our lab guide then, and we're now going to configure the lab ASA for Securing Ntp, and then we'll configure the switch for Securing Ntp as well. And as you can see in these commands here, we can see where the Ntp server is and the source interfaces we're going to be using on ASA, and also the source interface we're going to be using there on the switch. So going back to the CLI, we'll start with the ASA. So Ntp server, and you can see what it's asking for, the name of the peer or the IP address, 192.168.10.1, and we're going to use the same key, and you can see here the peer's key number needs to be the same, so that needs to be mutual, and the source interface we're going to use is the inside, and then Ntp authentication key, so this is 1 again, and we're also going to use the same password, so it's going to be Cisco Ntp, all lowercase, Ntp authenticate, and what this does is it authenticates the time sources. So Ntp authenticate, and the trusted key Ntp trusted key is 1. So that's it for the ASA. We'll do the same there now for the switch, although slightly different commands. Ntp server 192.168.10.1. Source is going to be, our source is going to be Ethernet 00. Ntp authentication key 1, and we're going to use the same password as Cisco Ntp. We're going to authenticate Ntp, and our trusted key is 1. Okay, so both of those devices now should be configured to pull the time, or with a time source of whatever router 1's configured with. So once we've done that, we're now on to step 4, which is secure Ntp verification. So this step 1, the clock shouldn't take long to synchronize to the Ntp server, which is lab router 1. Verify secure Ntp on lab ASAV and lab S1, and analyze the output based on what you've learned throughout your studies. So the reason I've put that in there is because assuming that you are working towards a CCNP exam or some sort of exam that includes the need to know these sort of configurations or labs, you might just want to spend a little bit more time looking through what you're seeing once you've configured it. So we've got a few commands here, and we'll start off by analyzing the ASA, and then we'll look at the switch. So if we go back over there now, let's start with the ASA. Show clock. Let's do show Ntp status. So it's unsynchronized at the minute. Let's do associations. So we can see that it's it's configured, but it's not synchronized yet. So let's just do login, enable, login, buffered, let's enable debugging. So what I've just done there as well, just so that we can analyze it a little bit further on the ASA, I've just enabled login, and the logs are going to be shown in the buffer. So if I do a show login, we'll start to see logs here generated. So it still doesn't look like it's synchronized. Ping 192.168.10.1. Okay, that's not working, is it? Show IP address. Show route. So I have a route via the inside. So let's have a look. The interface is up, so that's there, that's fine. And as you can see, if you issue a show login now, you can start to see the commands that are being, the commands we are using here. That's fine. So that doesn't seem to be synchronized yet. We might have to look at that a little bit more, but let's have a look at the switch for now. Do show Ntp status. So that's also unsynchronized, never been updated. Let's have a look at the associations. So this is the same. So yeah, it's configured. So it might still be taking a little bit of time to update. Let's have a look at router 1 here. So it's okay, so that's still there. Show run begin Ntp. So I just verify the configuration. Just put the key there. Let's check the interfaces. So we can see 10.1 is up there, so that's fine. Interface gig 1, so that's that interface here, so that should be up as well. So we're gonna have to start getting our troubleshooting on now, I think, if we don't see these devices synchronized with that clock. So let's do a login. Terminal monitor. Oh, so it's already on. And let's do debug Ntp. Let's have a look, see if we get any outputs here. See if we can determine what's going on. And what we should start to see, we'll just wait and see. We're getting some stuff coming back here now. So we can see NTP message is sent to 192.168.10.1 interface ETH00, so that's correct, that's where it should be. NTP message received from 10.1, so there's communication there. Peer's next action 1, peer becomes reachable. What else are we seeing here? Clock step, NTP message received. So it's showing that it's reachable. Let's just do a UAll. So undebug all, show NTP packets. So we've got packets coming in as well as going out. So that's good. Associations. There we go. So it's taken a little bit of a while there to synchronize. So it wasn't necessarily the configuration we entered wrong. It just took its time there to synchronize. So we can see now it's synced with a peer, with a configured peer. So if we do show Ntp Status, well, it's still synchronizing by the looks of it, but the reference clock is there, last update, so the last it's been updated. So if we do is show clock, so it might just take a little bit longer to synchronize. So that's showing us 1450, might not be up to date yet. Yeah, 1455, so they're still 5 minutes off, so it might take a little bit of while for that to come in. But let's have a look, see if we can see if there's anything going on with the ASA. Association, so this still doesn't look to be synchronized. Debug Ntp Events. See if we can get anything. Let's have a look at the packets as well, actually. Okay, let's just do show. Unsynchronized, so it's still not showing us getting a reference clock there. We're getting some packets in here now on the debug to 10.1. See what else comes through there. Ntp Associations. Status. So we can see now that the router itself, so that took some time as well. So we can see, I think what we're looking at here is just the virtual environment taking some time. What we can see is the clock is synchronizing, or it's just synchronized there for the actual master Ntp server. Let's just go back to the switch first, see what the status is on that. That's still unsynchronized. Last update though was 42 seconds. So there's communication happening there between it. It might just take some time for the clock there to change. Let's have a look at the show Ntp Associations. So we can see it's still synchronized there, but it's not. It's still configured there, but it's not synced yet. might just be a case of these taking some time, as we've seen now with these devices itself. Let's do a show clock detail, so you can see all the time source, the time itself, and the summertime settings that we configured. Let me just do a U-all to stop all the debugs that we enabled. Show clock detail on the switch, and that's the same. Show Ntp Association detail. Let's have a look what's going on here. So this is our master clock. You can see that our time is 14:54 last time we checked, and their time is 14:59. So our mode is Ntp client, and we've got PA mode Ntp server, which is right. Packet association out packets 22. So we've got 13 error packets there as well, so I don't know if that has anything to do with the virtual environment itself. So it just looks like it's taking a little bit of time to synchronize there, so I'm not going to hold up the video troubleshooting that. What I'll do is I'll come back once the clocks have synchronized. But let's just flick back there to the lab guide and make sure we're not missing anything else. I do think that's towards the end of the lab guide here. We've just got the output, pretty much what we've been looking at, but with the clocks synchronized. So we can see here on the lab ASA V, you can see that the clock synchronized there with 192.168.10.1. Sometimes this takes a while to synchronize. So yeah, that's pretty much it with this lab. Again, if you're following through, that's fine. If you much prefer to purchase the lab guide itself, you can do so. Again, the link will be posted in the description. But that is lab number 1 out of my CCNP security lab guide. I will plan on doing some more videos in the future based on my lab guide, so do look out for those. But until then, please like, subscribe and share, and so that you never miss a video that I upload, you can go ahead and hit the notifications tab, and you will be notified every time I upload another video. But until then, thank you for watching guys, and goodbye. Just a quick update guys, I was looking into the Ntp syncing, and what I realized on the lab ASA is that for some reason it wouldn't sync with the server IP address that we gave it. So in my particular lab, this might be the things that I'm observing here might just be within my virtual environment, but what I noticed was that once I changed the source to the 1.2, so the interface closest to the ASA, the synchronization started to then happen. So you can see there on screen that the ASA is synchronized now. But oddly enough, the and just on the router that's acting as the master server, we can also see that we're getting messages from the ASA, and we're also getting messages from the switch. But oddly enough, even though we're getting messages from the switch, this is still not synchronized for some reason. So we just do Ntp Associations. We can see that the clock is there, and that's the peer. But if we just do a show Ntp Status, you can see that it still says unsynchronized there, even though packets are being sent back and forth between it. I've been waiting a little while and just having a look and seeing what's see if I can find out what's going on. But you know, I even look at the Ntp packets that are being exchanged between both the switch and the router, and you know, you can't really see any issues that are present there. So it might just be the image that I'm using on a switch might be causing some issues. You know, it might just be my lab in general, but in theory, that the lab that we've just been through should in theory work. So it might just take a little bit of troubleshooting depending on how you're building it. So I hope that run into any of the issues.